thanks, guys, for letting us come into your living room and into the Johnson Ranch. It's so good to be with you.
Johnson Ranch. The only animal is this one right here.
I mean, we've got to start with the most important person in the house. Who is this?
100%. This is Max.
That's Max.
We all
Who doesn't know Max?
I know. He's one of the most preacher's dogs, most famous dog in the world. I'm serious.
He's usually the honorary mascot of Breakaway, right?
No kidding.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yep. And by the way, you can come over anytime. You brought McCooney's. You just keep that up. We're in business.
Exactly.
And a little McDonald's for you as Ray.
Yeah, that was stunning.
Just to look after you. So let me start with the most important people in the house, the kids. Obviously, the kids are the most important. You guys did a great job of raising your parents. And this is the interesting thing. I find that you keep coming back. I mean, for any excuse you want to get together as a family. What's that all about?
Well, pretty much that's accurate. I mean, if you rewind 24 hours, you guys were all here yesterday, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. It's actually what I think I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss this about COVID. Which is everybody's been together 24/7, which is really cool.
I think it speaks to even when COVID when all that first started, we all decided like we're not going to hang out with people because we want to be able to come over here. Like we are going to actually sacrifice other relationships we have to make this possible.
Yeah.
Which is for Max, obviously.
To see Max.
Just to see Max.
Yeah.
To see Max, you know. Exactly. But yeah, that's very true.
No, I was telling someone the other day, like, I mean, us siblings, like growing up, we weren't always. I feel like it was off and on how close we were. We were all so close to.
Off and on. Sometimes it was close, but it was combative.
Right.
And so I feel like, I mean, our poor mom, just growing up, we all kind of butt heads a lot. We were all super close in age. But I feel like, I was telling someone just yesterday, they had kids really close together, and she was like, this is crazy. And I was like, but now I feel like we are all so close. Like even though it was a rough few years getting here, but I do feel like we're all super close now. And I love, like, I would say Mark and Gio, we go down to hang out with them in Midtown all the time. Scott and Kayla, we love spending time with them. So that's awesome.
And next week we're going with you guys down south. Like, a lot of time together.
That's good. And so you mentioned another name there, Scott. The missing chair.
You couldn't be with us today.
No kidding. Yeah. They're with the Crows right now. So they're out of town for a couple of days, which is good.
Oh, that's really
Taking
cool.
a little vacation.
So, I mean, family, let's try and go right back to the beginning. There was a time when there was just you two together, and then a child comes.
It was so relaxing.
Oh, the good old days. Not at all. Just to talk to us about the stages and the transitions of parenting, because we've got a whole lot of people listening into this conversation, and they're at different stages. Some of them got tiny, some of them got teenagers. Just talk to us about what's it like. I mean, some things work when it's 7, but don't work when it's 12. Carol, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, we were married almost 5 years before we had any kids, and then Mark was born, and 21 months later, Scott was born, and then 21 months later, the girls came along.
Wow.
And so literally had 4 under 4. And I'm just, both Ray and I don't come from Christian backgrounds that, taught us, this is what family ought to look like. This is, I mean, I was raised in a family that loved one another, but didn't teach any Christian values and those kind of things in terms of actually referring to biblical truths or anything like that. So we kind of had to get all that information from other mentors. But I would say the biggest thing for the different stages of parenting is when they're all little, which the benefit of having them close together, they're all little at the same time, then they were all middle and at the same time. But somebody gave us some great advice and said the two things when your kids are little is love them like crazy and stomp out any sign of rebellion.
Wow.
Because I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase or not, but somebody once said, what might be cute at 2 isn't so cute at 16. And so, that sassy remark or that sassy comment a little one makes at 2 years of age is not so cute when they're 16 and it's a sassy remark like that. And so you want to really focus on that when they're little, and actually through elementary, I would say. And the biggest thing we've learned is that our example to our kids was huge when they were little, all through the elementary years. And then as they get to be teenagers, it really transitions, probably earlier than high school, obviously. But I remember we actually ended up getting a boat when all our kids started getting to be teenagers. And that was one of the best things we ever did, I think, because we were like 5 minutes from Folsom Lake. But we were examples to our kids, but then it's like they get to the teen years and they need to have experiences. They need to have experiences that are high impact. So like, even with some of our kids, I felt like we were forcing them to go to like the junior high retreats and things like that. But we wanted to make sure they had those kind of experiences that were high impact and with other examples in their lives besides just us. So that was kind of the teenage years, give them great experiences. And then I feel like parenting adults, which they all are now, is more about, which I love this stage actually. I've loved every stage, to be honest. But I think at this stage, and I was thinking about it this morning, and I think it's like, be affirming, you know, be available. Like Scott and Kayla have a 5-month-old now. It's so cool. Just to be available for them. And then the last one is just to ask a lot of questions, because they're going to figure out. They have to figure out. They don't want us telling them what to do at this point, obviously. But just being available and affirming, and I think ask a lot of questions for adult children, and you know.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So be available, be affirming, and ask lots of questions. Just for those parents that are out there parenting, adult. That's genius.
And then the one other thing we learned was about grandparenting. We were at something recently, and I think it was Bill Butterworth, and he said, somebody told him the most important word you can learn as a grandparent is the word wait. W-A-I-T. Wait. And we thought, well, what does that mean? And they go, why am I talking? Why am I talking? And
That's
so
smart.
I remember, I think about that now because we're grandparents now and soon to be grandparents of 2. And just, I think, asking questions, being affirming to them as parents, and I don't know. I love that.
It's great. That's gold. Ray, Carol mentioned there this whole thing about examples and experiences. That's something you even encourage the church with. I've been a number of times with you on stage. You've tried to coach thousands of people on that. Do you want to camp out that on a minute and just how important that is?
Yeah, but before I unpack the thing on that one, let me ask you all, what did you, like when you think about highest impact experiences we did together, they would be what?
I mean, camps by the sea, probably, right? Like,
Yeah.
we did that every single year. I mean, barring like what, 1 or 2 out of my first 25 years or something like that.
When Dad was incapacitated by his basketball injury.
Yes.
What is Campus by the Sea? What is this?
It's like a family camp on Catalina Island that has no power, no cell service. No, like for a long time we were staying in cabins that were literally just tents on planks.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's just the most kind of, even when we were like older, if you wanted to like use your phone, you had to go on a 15-minute hike.
Scott hiked like 10 miles one time to get cell service there.
I think that's true. That's true. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that just kind of like, it forces you to hang out together, but it contextualizes it well. Like, it's the kind of place where there's always something to do. There's always something interesting to do, and there's the right kind of programming at that thing in terms of like stuff to do as a family and with friends and that kind of thing, where you I don't know, we've been to a lot of family camps because Ray speaks at a bunch of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we've been to a lot of them where you kind of engage or not engage with the different like programs and everything.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones where, I mean, we went every single year and we just hung out with each other like for the entire time on all of those things.
Yeah.
We did all of our hikes together and all of that stuff. It was great.
It was awesome.
Super great experience. I think when I think of when we were maybe younger was you would, and even throughout high school, you would take us on like daddy-daughter dates. So we'd go to like Black Angus or like go to the movies together. And I remember one time, they were really classy. I remember my dad he took us to Ice Age when that came out. Maybe we're dating ourselves by saying that. But when Ice Age 1 came out, we swung through Taco Bell, grabbed some burritos. My dad stuck them in his pockets because we were sneaking it into the theater.
Yep.
And I remember we just like sat there and ate Taco Bell and watched Ice Age, and it was like the best thing ever. Still so clear remembering that. And
I do remember Dad though. He put the burritos in his pockets, and he's wearing like khaki pants.
Yes.
And like
khaki cargo shorts.
Yes. When we sat down in the theater, it was like
Loaded down with
grease
calories.
is dripping. Yeah, just the grease is dripping down.
Stained.
Is this the Taco Bell by the Folsom
Yes.
Theater?
Yes.
Yeah. We ate horrifying amounts of Taco Bell from that place, exclusively in that theater.
Wow.
We
If
did.
that theater ever goes out of business, it's because we bought from Taco Bell and not from them.
Exactly.
No. We still spent this like $90 on that stupid bucket of popcorn.
Popcorn.
We always bought popcorn.
But those like little things made a high impact, even though they aren't a huge like trip or something like that. Those were a really high impact for us.
I would say for me, I think you really involved us in everything that you guys were doing as much as possible.
Good.
And I mean, even things like a work trip for you, it was like, let's turn this into take all of us together as a family trip. Or even if you just took one of us, like you would also do stuff not like, okay, a whole family does everything together, but sometimes it was like, I'm just going to take Mark, or I'm just going to take Scott. And it was like this, or us, or one of us to be this special thing, which was cool.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, it's funny because when I look at this, I go, like Carol was saying a minute ago, I grew up in a home, and I think we've never even had this conversation. I grew up in a home where family was a negative. Okay, like every single person in the family caused some pain or they were a hassle, you know? And, sisters in prison and mom and dad, alcoholic, dad was an alcoholic, rageaholic. My dad actually stole my first house, which I'll be digging out of that financial hole forever.
That's a whole other episode in itself.
Holy smokes! And so I think coming into a family, I have got to flip this script 100%. And then I thought, okay, I really want our kids attracted to our faith and values. Well, nobody's ever disciplined into your faith and values when they're teenagers. So I thought they're either attracted to what you believe and how you live, or they're not attracted. So I just went, what can we do? And pretty much I was like, okay, if we don't like being together, this is not a win. And so I think we just did a bunch of stuff, even stupid stuff, going, the Ice Age thing, I remember that because Mama had a little chat about that because I'm like, it was a school night.
Yes. I think you took us out of school early for it.
Probably.
Oh yeah, and I'm going to get these kids out of school early, stuff like that, and taking them by to daddy-daughter date night, and all this kind of stuff. Carol's like, it's a school night, and I went,
I still remember that though. I still remember like leaving class early, and we're just like, we're ditching school.
That's cool.
He would just like randomly be like, we'd be driving up to school, and he'd be like, "Yeah, we're gonna go grab breakfast instead."
Yes,
and then he'd basically
totally.
drop you off
Sign you
just
up,
in time for lunch.
You drove us
you guys
to
are going to get me fired by some school.
What sort of pastor is
Remember the
this?
time you told me to drop out of college?
No schools were named in this.
Yeah. And rumor has it too that he even ditched devotions. Is that true? Sometimes he ditched.
I know.
Oh,
Everyone's like,
Every Christian parent's like,
really
we
need to
have
talk about this.
family devotionals at night. And if that's you, like if that's
If it
great.
works
if
for
it
you,
works,
great.
it works. That did not work for our family.
No.
But,
I remember like one time, it was like breakfast on like a Saturday morning, and he's like, everyone come sit at the table. We're going to do a devotion. And we're all like, what? Why are we doing a devotion?
What did we do wrong? Can't we just clear our room? Whatever, get it over with.
So we all sat there, and he's like, I mean, you tell this story better. You were like, everybody shut up. We're going to do this devotion together.
Whatever. Now turn to Revelation.
What's funny is you just go,
halfway through Job.
I felt like the world's worst pastor parent. It's like you're going, all these guys are like, we do family devotionals, our kids have memorized, Leviticus. And I'm going, like you were just saying, I'm going, shut up. We're talking about the joy of the Lord. Shut up. It's like, if it doesn't work, here's the deal. You're going, I want them to love God, and I want them to like us, and I want them to like being together, know?
I think to your credit, and I don't know if this has ever occurred to me before. I think that like stuff like that didn't feel not only like necessary but supernatural, because we, at least for me, I always kind of grew up going, oh, like my dad's the best communicator I know. Like
whoa, can I get this?
We would go. I have good news. There's like 18 cameras here. But like seriously, I mean, it was just like even in the modern era, like G and I will kind of decide kind of what services we're watching in quarantine based on whether or not you're speaking, and we would go out of our way to make sure that we made it out to Granite Bay if you were speaking, and that's been true basically forever. Like I've always found a ton of value in hearing you speak like at Bayside or on these trips and everything, to the point where it was like I don't know like that we needed to do home devotionals, because I felt like I had already basically been raised on a like really steady diet of really good teaching that was like applicable to kind of everybody and all that stuff, that it just kind of like, it was almost like kind of going like, okay, we're gonna do this just for like your benefit right now. It's like, I don't need that. You're really good already. Like,
well, and I think the conversation of faith and spirituality was never awkward in our family. Like I felt like we always could ask questions, and we could always voice like even doubts or like questioning something. I felt like that was always a welcome conversation in our family, so that it's not like, oh, we just don't even talk about anything at all. It just felt a lot more natural.
Yeah. Well, I never gave you, like every time you asked me a question, I never answered.
Oh, that's very frustrating.
It still does that.
Like, okay, I know.
He does that with me as well.
Yeah.
My question before of his own.
Yeah, he goes,
they would ask
you ask him a question, he goes, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, that's why I'm asking you. I don't know what I think.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you think? You're like, I asked you for $20. What are you doing?
I think a lot of those conversations happen in the car too, like driving around. And I think of that verse in the Old Testament, it's like when you wake up and when you walk along the road and when you go to bed at night. You know, it was more like that, not just a set time.
Yep.
And so I remember like years ago, these guys were all small. Mark was about 7, and we were driving around that day. And I remember we had this long spiritual conversation, and it was all about heaven and hell and eternal life and all that stuff. And when we went to the church that Ray was speaking at that night, Mark actually asked me, will Dad give a chance for me to raise my hand to accept Christ? And or when we were in the service, he asked that, and I said, I don't know. And he said, I think you said at 7, you said, well, I'll just do it in my head then. And then we came home, and that night we were sitting on the couch in the living room. I remember as clear as day, and you were in the garage, and that's where his office was at the time. Was in the garage, and I said, do you want to go ask Dad if he wants to come out? And so he went and said, hey, Dad, I'm gonna ask Jesus into my heart. You want to come out and pray with us? And when he came out, Ray was like, well, do you know kind of, he goes, I know what to say. Wow. Mark was like, I know what's going on here. And he prayed and received Christ right there.
It was cool. I remember that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so I just think a lot of that began in just a car ride, just us talking when everybody else was napping in the car, And Beautiful. So I just think it doesn't always happen.
Back to your original thing, though. The heartbreaking thing is so many parents, they go, man, I was a good example for my kids. But when they got to be, 15, 16, 17, whatever, they just ran away, fell off a cliff. What was that about? And at some point you're going, I feel like, it's cool you're going to be a parent in about 6 weeks. And I go, God had 2 perfect kids, put them in a perfect garden, and they still screwed their life up. So if God's not batting 1,000 on this one, parents, give yourself a break.
Yeah,
okay?
that's good.
But on the other hand, I go, when they're little, they need you to be an example. Okay? When they get older, they need high octane, life changing experiences. Camps, retreats,
Mexico.
Mexicali. Yeah, I can't, man. Every time I talk to a parent, they go, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to let my kid go to Mexico. I'm going, what? It's too dangerous to not have them go if your faith and value match. So I mean, we just kept throwing them into experience, and a lot of we were with them.
Yeah.
But we just did a lot. I mean, we've been in Africa, we've been in here or there, and
But we intentionally weren't too. When they all started going to Mexico, I remember I was like, no, this is their thing. Let them do it. And then
you guys forced us to go when we didn't. I mean, sometimes
go.
like through shyer phases, it was like, oh, I don't really want to go. But you guys were like, nope, you're going. And I think that was awesome.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that any parents would not want their kids to go to Mexico. Like, I mean, we did it. We went so many years and like did so many different things there. But also, like, if 2020's taught you anything, it's like, what are you worried about? Like what's the great risk of going on something like that you aren't also going to experience inherent risk anywhere else in the world?
No kidding.
Like, just go do the interesting thing. Like,
Yeah.
True.
So Ray, you have this phrase, and it says, "Don't let school get in the way of a good education." Is that kind of built on the back of that, given these experiences?
I think first of all, students should not be allowed to go to junior high. I mean, they should take those 2 years and go build a boat, or because
there we go. That's episode 3.
No kidding.
It's building with Ray. We haven't heard of.
If you're a junior high kid watching this, don't cut school. But they need these high octane experiences. Okay, and so like when our kids were growing up, I went, okay, when do they need to break peer pressure? Okay, and just so like for example, the girls. I was like, if they're really quickly developing, it's their sophomore year. If it's a little later, then their junior year. But I thought, I'm going to bust this sucker up somehow. Okay. In their case, it was their junior year of high school, and we were going to Kenya on a mission trip. So I pulled them out of school, but I pulled them out for 6 weeks. Remember that? Holy smokes! That's an experience. And we went, we served, and then we went to.
We went to Kenya, and then we went over to Germany a little bit.
Scott was in school at Germany that year.
And then ended in Southern California trying to do geometry. The 6 weeks of geometry in 2 days.
No, algebra 2. It was your junior year. That was even harder.
But it was awesome. They're junior in high school. They're out of school for 6 weeks, and the 4 of us.
Year academically.
We're in France. We're in Italy. We're all over the place. And then when we got back, instead of shoving them back in school, I was like, you guys got a choice. You go back to school, or we'll go to Newport Beach for a whole week, and you can just do all your homework and catch up and go back to catch up.
Well,
so
math,
Newport Beach or school. What's your choice? And I remember the school went, what? You can't do, like, somehow they can raise your kids better than you can. Okay. And we're like, just give them the assignments. We got this. And somehow, Gia.
Now he barks.
That's right.
Now we can finally
How you
start.
doing?
Hi.
Yeah, there you go.
Zio, that's your water right there. I assume, unless Andrew started drinking.
Oh,
out
I
of it.
did. I started drinking.
I know.
You look.
It's about to get a lot more valuable.
Max, make yourself at home.
Yeah, you really picked the easiest lab, didn't you?
No kidding.
Just a little bit of room for you.
And this is Gia.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, great to have you. Welcome to the
Hey,
episode.
so tell the whole world this is Gia to the whole world. And we, if Gia's not here and we're talking, we're like one of the best things that ever happened to a family. One of the best things. I mean, the first time I met her, I met with Mark and said, "Don't screw this up because we're keeping her." So
This is true. He said it enough times that I don't think it was a joke. Like it was like a few months in, and he was like, if that doesn't work out, we're keeping her. So just a heads up. And then like a year in, he said the same thing. I'm sure he said it on our wedding day.
So
Yes, really
You
love
guys,
that.
you're going to be parents in about a month's time, yes?
Yeah, a
6
little
weeks.
over, yeah.
So cool.
Wow. So exciting. So, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot, okay,
Great.
with everyone here. The thought of having your own kid, what an amazing thing, but what an incredible responsibility. What is it, even one, maybe two at the most, things you're going, as a dad, best thing I learned was this, and I'm going to try and replicate this. What would be the thinking there?
Oh man, it's tough because I feel like we kind of rolled some very unfair dice as far as parents go. Like it's like, you've got, you always compare parents with your friends, and like you kind of see how your friends kind of view your parents when they come over and all that stuff, and just like wall to wall, it just doesn't seem like you can kind of be raised by better people, like more considerate people, more even-keeled people, that kind of thing. So it's tough to kind of like, it becomes really hard to give advice on that front, or like to take something specific away, because you're kind of like, oh, they did everything really, really well. I think one of the biggest things is it's really easy to kind of agree with, like to kind of get along really well when you agree on stuff and everything. I feel like my dad and I argue really well. Like we can be like on a long car drive and get into like something, anything, and like seriously, and like heavy stuff like politics, theology, that kind of thing, where we like won't align 100% on something, and we can spend a half hour going back and forth on something, and it doesn't get heated, it doesn't get accusatory, nobody kind of looks at the other person with a sense of like, oh, well, if you weren't so old or out of date, or if you weren't so young and stupid, you wouldn't feel this way, that kind of thing, which is how pretty much all discourse
Although
goes
that's
now.
true. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, I think that just kind of being able to have a conversation where you kind of acknowledge each other's viewpoints when you don't agree with each other or see from their perspective is one of the hardest things to do in the world right now. And I feel like we've always been really good at being able to do that, which I feel like has got to be really hard for a lot of people, because
it kind of sounds like you got a relationship. That's what it's
yeah. It's more than just like, I need, like you go to your dad for just advice and you hope that you get the advice you want kind of thing. It's like you can really kind of butt heads on ideas and not only walk away from it with a respect for one another, but at no point do you ever kind of question like, does he like me less over that kind of thing. So really hoping that like I'm as even keeled like that in the future, because I can be pretty opinionated. My mom said, what's the sassiness that's cute at 2 isn't just cute at 16. I think they got better at that with later iterations of kids.
Whatever. She did look at you once when she said that.
I know. That's where I got the sass.
What would you say to Mark, from what would your advice be to him as he becomes a father, right?
I think what he has going for him is the same thing I have going for me, a spectacular wife. Gia is just easy to love, easy to like. Because it was so fun when she came in, we just developed this really cool relationship. So like one of my favorite moments with Gia was, she's doing this interview thing at her company, okay? And she's called me, she's kind of nervous, like, hey, prep me for this, so I prep her for it. And then the minute I get a call about 2 hours later, and she goes, I killed it. I'm like, good for you. And I like being a cheerleader, in her case. But it's funny, I was thinking about this, like, all the Mark and I mean, when it comes to politics, I'm right, and he's wrong. No,
Classic comedy right there.
Yeah, we have all this stuff, but I realized this yesterday morning. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's right all the time. Instead, they prefer real. You know what I mean? Like real's better than somebody that's never wrong and they're arrogant and all that kind of stuff. And even like this setup, they said, hey, can we film this in your living room? We'd love to have a conversation with the Johnston family and get real, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I thought there'd be ran-in cameras, stuff like that, which they did. These guys were amazing. But they also took all of our furniture out. like all of our furniture, which probably should have been taken out because it's all 30 years old and it's to death
nice
by our
furniture.
kids and all their friends. But what happens is, then they put this stuff in. Well, Carol comes in yesterday morning, and she has that look, that, well, I'm troubled by something look.
She doesn't hide it well.
No, she's
Not at all.
not masked.
Hey.
So I go, what's up? And she goes, lots of people have been in our living room, and they go see this furniture, and it's better than the stuff we have. Are we like faking? And I said, well, we'll just tell everybody the furniture's fake. Now, when they try to come get it back, we're hanging on to this.
Possession is 9/10 of the law. There you go.
But it was even yesterday, like Leslie's going, I got to get a car. And you told me that Mark said he would go with you.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, I just love the fact that we like being together and they like hanging out and helping each other. To me,
love
that's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Ray, you're also a dog whisperer.
I am. We got skills. This is how we feed our kids too, but they want to do it on camera.
So, Ray, talk to me about this. I sort of want to go back in time a little bit. You were a up-and-coming national speaker, traveling across the nation. Everyone wanted to hear Ray Johnston, but you also had 4 kids under 4. And I've heard it said before that for some guys, it's easier for them to be at work than it is to be at home. How did you balance that with the home life, the ministry life, so much opportunity, but having responsibility?
It's probably like every guy. Lots of guys get a lot of self-image rewards out of what we do, okay? And which means you never get it from home. I mean, nobody's going, hey, I did the dishes. They sat around and applauded. I mean, it just never happens, okay? And a little bit of this, I think it was late 30s or something when we had these guys. And I think I'd realized by then, you know what? Eventually, you're done with your church, you're done with your job, but you still got your family. So give yourself to something that's going to last, So I think, and then some of it, to be honest with you, is the more we hung out, it was just more fun being with them than it was being anywhere else. So, to this day, I would rather us hang out than do almost anything else. Vacation or whatever.
Yeah. So did he get it right? Did he get the balance right? Come on, this is Ray on the reels right now. How did he do?
Yeah, I mean, I do remember him traveling a lot, but it wasn't how he was gone all the time. It's like what he did when he was back with us. So I think that time was so well used. Yeah, thanks. $1.
Hey, got 4 kids. I don't have any more than that.
There you go.
But yeah, I wouldn't say if someone travels for work that it's like, oh, you're not gonna have a great relationship with your kids. I think it's what you do when you're home would make the most.
And he knew it to prioritize too. I don't remember you ever missing our volleyball games, anything that was a big deal to us. It never felt like, oh, Dad said he'd be there, but he didn't show up. It was like he was there.
Yeah.
He took our calls in any meeting, no matter how big the meeting was, no matter how many people were in the room or how important they were. If I call him, I know he's never, probably almost never missed a phone call.
Oh, I'll answer it. If I'm in I don't care what meeting. If they call, I'll pick it up the phone. Now it doesn't work
So when
the
he
same way.
doesn't pick up,
so
I'm
like Leslie's in all these meetings, I'm calling her. She's like, I'll get to him later. So it only goes
It's
one
not
way.
reciprocated.
I was just going to say I should use Leslie's phone. No.
Oh, that's fabulous. Ray, you also talk about every kid goes through 3 stages, but they go through them twice. You want to unpack that?
Yeah, and This explains why you guys acted like you did and why every parent watching this. Human development happens in 3 stages, okay? Like birth to about age 3, 4, 5 is a time of discovery. And, you know, I mean, we're going to be there with you guys. Like, and they're discovering fingers, toes, mom, dad. They're just like discover, okay? And then about age 7 or so, somewhere in there, okay, they go from discovery to testing. And they test, and the question is, what do they test? Well, they test everything they just discovered. So like they test like, what happens if I put this fork into the wall sprocket? What happens if I ride my bike off the roof into the pool? You know, I mean, it's why almost every parent here has been in a hospital with their kid when they're 10, 11, and 12 years old, because they're testing everything. And then about age, I don't know, about age 10 or 11, they go into stage 3, they draw conclusions, okay? Which means now it's full childhood. I mean, the most secure people in the world are all 10 years old, okay? I mean, they're home on Friday night, they don't have a date, they don't care. I mean, they're 10 years old, they're happy. Like every parent I know is like, freeze them when they're 10, 11, you know, that sort of thing. And then now, and it's just the happiest people in the world are all 10, 11, or 12 years old, okay? Then a tragic thing happens, puberty hits, whammo, and wipes the whole thing out. And they can't, so they let go of the childhood trapeze, but they can't grab the adult trapeze because they had to go through 3 stages to become fully a kid. They go through the same 3 stages to become a functioning adult. So they go through discovery, testing, and conclusion. Discovery, that's junior high. That's why they're so freaking insecure. Okay, I mean, like they're like, you know, junior high kids are like up, down. You got a boyfriend, break up at noon, new one by dinner. You know, that's junior high. Okay, and they're insanely insecure because junior hires. No adult I know. You got anybody want to go back to junior high? Nobody wants to go back to junior high. Okay, because you're going. Do you think I go? Am I okay? Do you think so? All stuff. Then what happens is, that's easier. Then they go from discovery in junior high to testing. That's high school, and that's when parents are like, "Get me a gun. I'm taking this kid out." Okay, and you go, "What are they testing?" They're testing everything: rules, limits. You know, I mean, you know, dad says, "Be home at midnight." Kid comes home, you know, Tuesday. You know, just to test what's going. And then about age 18 or 80, they draw conclusions and move into full. And one of the things parents need to know is this, man, that especially that anybody watching, the teenage years are a time of transition, not a time of arrival. You know, and so it's going to take patience, and you got to chill out some. But those 3 stages explain why people act the same way. And the problem is you can't parent the same way in these stages. Right. Okay, so a lot of times parents are going, well, now they're into testing. So I'm just going to raise the volume and scream at them more. No, they're in a whole different stage, so you use different strategies.
Yeah.
That's genius. All of this is going to go into G-rated, the book. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I think let's explore the area of discipline. This is a hot topic. I'm looking at you, Carol, at this point. You know, guide moms, dads. I think for a lot of parents, they're feeling, I don't discipline enough and my kid's not doing good, or I'm disciplining too much, I'm shouting or whatever. Help parents just for a moment in the whole world of discipline. How do they know they're winning? How can they win in this area that's so critical?
Oh gosh, I think I go back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, we've used the analogy about the bank. You know, you have to have enough in the bank. The bank. This analogy of you have to put enough affirmation and love into the bank before you can really take out. And discipline is a taking out. So if you don't have enough in the bank, with love and affirmation and time spent together and quality time and all that kind of stuff, the discipline then comes, if you have a depleted account, then it goes into negative. And I just think that's when things get pretty rough, I think, as a parent, because you're not putting enough in to be able to take out. And discipline is always a taking out process, I think, because no parent likes to do that. You know, it doesn't bring us joy to have to discipline your kid, but they have to be disciplined. But you hope that the balance of what you've put in allows for that time where when it's hard.
Yeah. I hear
That's
you guys say
genius.
this, it's always a relationship before rules.
Well, yeah, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. And so, I mean, the more like you hang out, you build into all of this kind of stuff. It's like putting money in the bank.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing is this: when you guys became teenagers, you know, it's like, you know, when they're a little kid, you're hugging them all the time. They come home, hey, Dad's home. You know, it's like, you know, then they become a teenager. Okay, Dad's home. Who cares? You know. So I would walk in and I would go, all right, everybody, get up and give me a hug. You are not too cool to hug your dad. Okay? And I just I'm not going to let the distance occur. You know, so some of that stuff.
Yeah, being the adult and being the parent, I think you have to, you know, sometimes I think, you know, as parents, sometimes we can get insecure about stuff like that. You just have to be the adult, you know?
Great. That's great.
If I could jump in, I always felt like with you guys disciplining us, I always felt like you always saw, and I know you've kind of said this before, is that when we'd do something or mess up in some way or whatever, one of them would always sit us down and kind of be like, I know that's not who you really are.
That's
like, I know that's not who you
Great
really
line.
want to be. And that was always so freeing, I think, for all of us, in that it's like, oh, wow, they view me as great. And that me doing this isn't like, oh, I'm just a terrible person or whatever. I read somewhere someone said, like, the more you criticize your child, they don't like you less, they like themselves less.
Wow,
And
that's
just,
great.
I always
hold
felt,
on.
put that in the book.
We should take notes.
But I thought that was so true, and I've always felt like, oh my gosh, my parents think I'm the best, the greatest, like greatest of all time. Like, and when it was not true, opposite of that, but they always communicated that to us and always believed in us that we were better than how we were acting in that moment. And so I think discipline never was like us getting crushed on who we were on the inside. It was always encouraged out, like coaxing out who I think we could be.
Yeah, I don't think it ever read to us as criticism.
Yeah.
Which is probably
never.
valuable. I
Just
hadn't considered that.
correction.
Yeah.
That's good.
I also feel like a lot of it, nothing felt really arbitrary ever. Like because this is my house and my rules kind of thing.
Yeah.
Never really came into the fold. Like we had, you always get a curfew of some capacity, but like when I was in high school, I was mostly hanging out at our youth pastor at the time's house with my friends who all just hung out at our youth pastor's house. And so I basically never made curfew, but I never really got in trouble for it because they knew I was just what are you gonna do, be mad
I
at me
just
for
wanted
hanging
you
out
to
at
call me. I just wanted you to be
And here we are 20 years later. But yeah, like it didn't feel arbitrary. It didn't feel like, well, you have to be home at 10 o'clock. Okay, why? Because I said so. It's like, no, because I want to know you're safe. And so with that being the logic of it, if you know where I am is safe and you know that I'm fine, then you guys never really, you would call to be like, hey, like, are you coming home soon? And I'm like, yeah. And like, you're at the Price house. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
And then it was fine.
Yeah.
And it was only ever when those kind of expectations were kind of shuffled where it was like, no, you need to be home because we don't know where you are, or you aren't somewhere where we have like a knowledge of kind of the environment you're in and all that stuff, which is a much more fair reason to enforce that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Although it's funny, I'm concerned that parents with young kids are let out so much rope. Too early. When you get to the teenage years, all the rope's already let out, and you're toast.
Very good.
You know, so like we were really strict with you guys when you were younger. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I mean like really strict.
Oh yeah.
If we ever talked back to my mom,
Oh,
my
man.
gosh.
all of us watch
scary.
out. Watch out.
Scary,
Did
like
that
low
ever
voice
happen?
Ray.
Yes, the scary look. He never
Oh, my
yelled at
gosh.
us. I don't
No,
think he
you're
ever
fine. I've
yelled.
never once had
I don't
to
think-
yell.
I don't think
Never yelled verbally loud at him.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever smoked his entire life, but if we were ever mean to mom, he had the voice of a like lifelong, if you ever.
My goodness.
Oh, it was
Or like a
terrifying.
godfather threat
Yeah.
type.
Like goes outside and like chain smokes a pack really quick. Just so he can come in and be like, if you ever Speak to your mother.
Oh, it's true.
I know. We could say like, yeah, Mom, I'll go do it. Like we could say yes to doing what she's asking us
If
to
we
do.
said
But
yes,
we don't,
wrong.
Yes, if we don't say it in like an uplift, like, oh, I would be so happy to serve you.
Yeah, right.
Ever talk to Mom that way?
Yeah,
only ever
Dad
heard
never
Ray.
yelled, but Mom was a different
And that's
story.
exactly what I would do. I would literally go, don't you ever talk to your mother like that again. It's like, okay, I won't. I mean, but if you do that when they're young,
Yeah.
then because doing that when they're teenagers,
No.
I mean, in a sense, it's prime time to stomp out rebellion
Right.
when they're young.
Yeah.
And
What's funny is that kind of image of you kind of like, because we're very small at the time, and this image of you as our dad like over us being like, don't, like this like kind of very dark energy, kind of like storm cloud kind of thing. But it's like, it's the kind of thing that if you put it into a movie about like a family drama, you'd be like, that's a bad moment in a family right there kind of thing. But what you were talking about like the putting in and withdrawing chips of like emotional encouragement, all that stuff. That moment was never a moment of like, oh shoot, what's Dad gonna do to me kind of thing. It was a like, the emotional like weight of what he was saying and how he was saying it was the concern, because we knew how encouraging and loving and positive that he was.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like Dad's about to get the belt. It was like like we clearly have crossed a line where like we're leaving the like very positive kind of normal like our family is really.
Right.
I mean, we were all
Right.
terrors that fought with each other
100%.
constantly.
100%.
But you guys were great, and you guys were so like we've talked about for the last couple minutes, so encouraging and so affirming, and we didn't feel criticized when you were correcting us and stuff like that.
good.
although
And so for
I
it to-
still hear these. Oh, good.
and so for that to pivot was I think a very powerful thing, because we didn't have that like
Right.
fear of what the reprisal was going to be, just a knowledge that we had crossed a line,
Yeah.
which I think is helpful.
That's
Because
good, yeah.
I think a lot of people who hear that kind of thing,
They're like, what's
Yes.
going to
like,
happen?
probably have a mental image of a dad or a
Yeah.
parental figure that treated them more harshly. That image probably conjures something that
Yeah.
Yeah.
is a little different.
So your dad sounds very calm, but what about the day when Scott got on the roof of his Mustang?
Mom, I think you should tell that
man.
story.
Let's go real world here,
Mom,
everybody.
Let's tell the story of
Poor Scott's not even
rollerblades
here to defend
versus
himself.
cloth
I
top
know.
Mustang.
Mom
there-
met me at the front door.
If there was a rock to climb, a wall to climb, or anything else to climb, Scott was climbing
Convertible
it.
to climb.
He was our climber, and for some reason, we had 4 kids running around, and sometimes some of them would be in the house, sometimes they'd be in the garage. But I remember going out into the garage and seeing, I think the last jump probably, where his foot went through the roof of the Mustang.
Through the roof.
And I think there might have been a little tear in it to begin with, maybe. I'm not sure. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
But what did he have on his
So
feet when he was on
so
top
I
of it?
think he might
Oh,
have
so-
had rollerblades on.
No, so I get home.
Nobody has ever said
I remember
might have had rollerblades. there's no question about whether or
Yeah.
not someone's wearing rollerblades.
I don't know what he was wearing. He's
I'll
not
tell
even
you what
here
he
to
was
defend
wearing.
himself. So,
So I have this old Mustang.
Scott, we love you.
Yes, we do.
Wherever you are right now.
Son, you're back in the family in March. So Carol meets me at the front door. I go right. She goes, "Hey, just wait a second." She goes, "Why don't we sit down on the couch?" I'm going, "Somebody die? What?" She goes, "You just got to promise me you won't kill him." He actually said that. I go, "What?" She goes, "You got to promise you won't kill him." I go, "What?" She goes, "Well, Scott went, and you know how he likes to climb. Well, he went up in I have an old 65 Mustang convertible. He went up on the top, and it looks kind of like a trampoline. And I think it was in my golf shoes. So he's jumping up
I
and
don't
down
know
on
what he
top
was wearing.
of the trampoline, poking holes, and then right through into the thing. So I said, "I'll kill him." But that's what I will never forget that.
Never
And neither will
forget
the
it.
Mustang.
So, Ray and Carol, what help parents out there? Because parents are watching this and they're going, they want to be great parents, but they have their moments and kids have their moments. How would you coach a parent to help them with their kid who's made a mistake, but to help them that it wouldn't become a defining moment in their life?
Oh,
good.
ask these guys.
Start now. Like
Yes.
like seriously, like what we were talking about earlier with like when like real discipline had to happen and everything. It was effective without being damaging because
Good.
you guys had already like set all the right precedents and done all
It's a
of
smart phrase.
this stuff so that like because you can't in a moment of anger and frustration be like, how am I going to best handle this situation, especially if you don't already have a pretty secure relationship in the first place. So like if you don't start building into that when they're not in trouble, you're not going to be able to like weave through those traffic cones when they jump through the roof of your convertible.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the
Mark,
other,
can I just say, Mark, you're going to be a great dad.
Yeah.
He will.
Be a great
He will.
dad.
I would also say they never acted surprised by anything that we would do. Like, and
Apparently, us messing up was really predictable.
but I mean, I think if I ever had to tell them about how I've messed up or anything like that, they never, even if maybe they were surprised on the inside, they didn't act surprised. So we felt like we could come to them with whatever we needed to talk about. And it wouldn't affect our relationship. It wouldn't affect the way that they loved us. Like, we always knew we were loved because we were told constantly, like, how much we were loved. But I think they also just never acted like, if I came to them and said, I mean, even recently, it's like I've been like, hey, I messed up in this way, and this is how it affected me. They were like so quick to be like, this doesn't change the way how we view you. This isn't.
Right.
This
Yeah.
doesn't change anything. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, let's work through it. But
Yeah.
the love
Totally.
and stuff.
And I think to also like flip it, whenever they would mess up, they would own up to it. Like, I remember like we were driving back when we lived in Folsom.
We don't have to go there.
Oh, please.
Real talk.
We could spend a whole episode on this.
This could be
talking
book
about,
after
about
book.
the Folsom Dam Road. Is that the one
Dam
we're
Road.
allowed to say this on camera?
Yeah, exactly. I remember we used to live in Folsom. We had the Granite Bay campus, so we used to commute over the Folsom Dam Road, and I think you like lost it in the car or something like that.
We
All
hit
of
a
us in the
pothole.
back.
We hit a pothole and blew a tire. Like
tire.
one of those potholes where
Two
like
tires.
half the car goes off the ground. You
Wow.
hit the hole so
Both
hard.
front
Yes.
tire and back tire explode.
And somebody
guys-
else exploded.
You, yeah, you guys were asleep. Mark was the
Yeah.
only one who was
Mark was the
awake,
one who
and at
was
that point he's
awake.
like 7. And so I have a quick fuse. It goes off, and then like 30 seconds later, I feel like a jerk. And so I get the phone out, call AAA, get out of here, pick me up, and then I hang up, and I'm going, what moron can't fix the Folsom Dam Road? You know, and this is back when Clinton was like, it's Clinton's fault, the idiot. You know, and I mean, I am blaming everything I think of. That lasts like maybe a minute, okay? Then I get out. It's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. We preached a billion times, had all these services.
Super Bowl
Super Bowl
Sunday.
Sunday. Went to his home, watched Super Bowl with a bunch of people. So now it's 9 o'clock at night. All of our kids are in a minivan, sacked out, except for Mark, who's awake. I get out. I walk over to the lake, and then I ask God for forgiveness. I apologize to God. Mark gets out of the van, just comes up next to me, and I look at him and I go, hey, son, man, I'm really sorry. I go, that's not the kind of dad I want to be. It's not the kind of example I want to be. Will you forgive me? And he goes, yeah, you bet. So I go back in the car, and I said to Carol, I said, hey, honey, I acted like a child. I'm really... She agreed. And then I said, will you forgive me? And she goes, yep. And I said, oh, and good. I apologize to Mark, too. And I think Mark's 6 or something. It's 6 or 7 at this point in
Yeah,
time.
somewhere around there.
And she goes, oh, that's a good thing. And I go, why? She said, because the second you got out, Mark leaned forward and he goes, you know, Dad doesn't handle this kind of thing well, does he? and I went off the... I drove
Didn't he
home
say
at-
something to you like, these things happen?
Yeah, he did. He goes, you know, Dad, things like this happen. Oh, thank you, son. Disciple me later.
Philosophical Mark.
It's so funny how that stuff comes full circle too. I had a thing like 2 years ago where we got snowed in up north, and AAA refused to come get us because they were like chain advisory, and I was like, we came before there was a chain advisory, and they just wouldn't go. So I was literally like yelling at AAA on the phone, and called him afterwards to kind of be like, I need like some calmness, and he did the exact same thing. He was like, these things happen. It'll be fine.
Full circle. There you go.
Yeah. He got it from his mom. But it was funny. I realized that day my kids don't need a perfect parent, which is a very good thing because they're not about to inherit one. Okay, my kids also don't need a dad who tells them what to do but doesn't do it. That'll produce nothing but bitterness and rebellion. Okay. What my kids need, I think, I realized out on that Folsom Dam Road that I went, my kids need to see God changing Dad. Because I think then they go, well, if God's changing Dad, then I should be easy, But so to me, that's, I think, when people actually see God at work in your life, that is a massive deal.
That is beautiful. Sort of as we draw this to a close, there's one thing I have found so helpful, I've observed it in your family, is, and maybe girls, you want to elaborate on this, is the whole culture of affirmations.
That's massive.
And even how it's displayed at birthdays and things like that.
Yeah. We always had a culture of affirmations in our house. I mean, like I said before, we were always built up, whether it was in discipline or just in daily life. I mean, my dad probably tells me that he loves me like 4 times a day, even just like through a text. And I feel like in a season like this of COVID, I just had a thought the other day, like, man, back in the day, if we had had all this time together, that would have been actually really fun. Like we love being together, but I think it's because we're in a super like an affirmation type house. And I think, like, I just think of families now, it's like this is the time that you have together that no generation has ever had of time together, like this amount of time as a family. And I feel like kids can either leave this time going, man, I was built up, like my parents love me, I feel they love to be around me, or they can leave this feeling like, man, my parents are really sick of me, like they don't like me at all. And so I'm thankful that we grew up in a house where, I mean, birthdays, every event, whether it's a birthday, a celebration, a graduation, we take time and we sit as a family and everybody goes around and affirms that one person. And so we started when we were little, so probably the affirmations were really lame, like, I like your hair, or you give me your toys or something.
Or, I mean, they enforced this at our birthday parties. So it'd be like, we're like 11, turning 11, we got all our girlfriends over, like hanging out, and be like, okay, it's like affirmation time, like everybody's gonna say something, or like, we're gonna go around. And it was actually really cool, because our friends started being like, can we do that like affirmation thing at my birthday party?
Totally.
Like, can we start doing that? Or families would come and like family friends would come over and they started doing it. And they're like, now we do that at every birthday party that we do. And it's just super, super cool.
We've had friends like tear up, talk like at their own birthday parties just because they've never had that happen before. Or like even when, we've had friends over for just big events and we do that kind of stuff. And I think it really is, I mean, what other time in your life do the people that you love and are around take intentional time to sit and tell you that they love you? I feel like it fills you up for the next however many months until the next event.
Until the next birthday.
Yep. And it's funny because I just think it's a self-image war zone out there. You know what I mean? Especially if you're at junior high is a self-image war zone. High school's worse. Okay. I mean, a friend of mine had written in his annual, God created rivers, God created lakes, God created you, Jim. Everyone makes mistakes. That's what they hear, nothing but that. And that used to just happen in junior high and high school. Now it happens to every human being online every day times 5,000. Okay? It's insane. And I go, Carol actually was the one who, Carol was like, I want our home to be a safe place. I want our home to be a place where people, people that know me are like raised pretty quick-witted and can be sarcastic. And I brought that into marriage, and Carol made it pretty clear really fast that was not going to be part of our house.
Yeah.
And I think that was when she put a sign up saying there's another room in the house you can live in. And really, it has been trying to have a church where people are built up instead of torn down. Trying to have a home where people are built up instead of torn down. I mean, and Gia's been, I don't think I've ever heard Gia say a negative thing about anybody, which you've been
true.
so cool. So Gia,
Yeah?
you're the newest member of our family, okay?
Not for long.
I was like,
I know, not for long. So if somebody
familiar.
were to ask you
True.
to describe us, what would you say?
I would say that this is like the most loving, welcoming, encouraging family that I've been so blessed to be brought into and met Mark. And yeah, I've just always felt so loved. And you've modeled so much for us moving into parenting. And yeah, I'm just super thankful for that.
And I think he's going to be, by the way, you bring that with you. I think that's probably, I'm not sure that's us. I think you might have brought a bunch of that in. You know, a room you're in is better when you're in it.
Thank you.
Why do you think he's going to be a good dad?
Oh gosh.
Oh, we don't have to do that.
Probably nothing's going to come to mind, so I've made a list for you.
Hearing this story, the dam story, and hearing how quickly
Can't say that on camera.
the Folsom dam.
Funny.
Thanks, babe. You just cut that one out.
No.
Mark forgives very quickly, and I think that'll be great. You being a dad, and also I just think the traditions that this family has brought. Christmas, I'm super excited about, and even just hearing about the affirmations and stuff. Like I super look forward to doing that with our son. So
Yeah.
Beautiful.
yeah.
I think that, just to interject on something you said earlier, I think that it's interesting kind of growing up with you guys, and just, I think you get used to a lot of stuff. Like, I think we probably all take for granted a lot of the stuff about our home life and all that.
Yeah.
We can appreciate it and understand that it's not always the norm, that kind of thing. But I think it's around the time that you and I got married and started doing a lot of kind of like family trip stuff with both sides of the family, and bigger trips where you start splitting holidays and all that stuff. And I think we very quickly realized that this house became very much like a refuge for us. Like, this became a spot that we were like, if a holiday was tough, if an event, if any kind of portion of life brought a lot of like
pandemic.
drama and struggle and all these things, we very quickly realized, like, oh, we want to finish a holiday at this house. We want to make sure that because to kind of spend time with you guys is to kind of spend it on a high note. And yeah, exactly. We come home from here feeling a lot more encouraged than almost anywhere that you can go. So
And if I can tie this together, I get choked up listening to you talk about this, because I grew up in a home where there was alcohol, rageaholic, people screaming, things being thrown out of the home. I would have to get my two younger sisters to get out of the house. It was so dangerous. I went home every day going, what's going to explode today? I mean, I grew up in this insane home, and I brought all that with me. And I met Christ at age 18. And it wasn't just that I met Christ. I ended up in this great church with all this great teaching. And literally it was the church that healed my image of God, healed my image of myself, and healed my image of what parents could be. And then just watched all these Christian parents, do this. And so what I would say to wrap this up, what I would say to everybody watching this, for some people, they're going to watch this and go, ooh, this is good stuff. Other people, they're going to watch it and feel worse. Okay, they're going to be like, oh man, it is never too late to get God do something new. And it is like we're always going, like if everybody screws up. I screw up all the time. Okay, I mean, whenever anybody screwed up, what would I say?
That's not who you are.
Yeah, I would say that's not like you. That's not who you are. And what I'd say is God looks down and says, that's not who you are. You are my child, and you can start today going, I will be the most encouraging person in people's lives. Everybody's got enough critics. Okay, you don't need to be somebody's Holy Spirit. If somebody goes, how do you just start? It's a disaster now. How do you start? If you start becoming the most encouraging person in somebody's life, then anything's possible.
Yeah.
And right now in history, given what's going on online and all of this kind of stuff, I think every single human being is starving for somebody just to come and encourage them. So an encouraging parent covers a multitude of sins, man. Like I think I've screwed up a ton as a parent and as a person. Okay. However, if you're encouraging enough, people are very like these guys hearing you say all these nice things. I'm going,
I know.
wow,
Love
they're
covers
very
a multitude of sins.
Yeah, she's talking about me, not her. I think if somebody goes, how do I start? Just become the most encouraging person in the people in your life, and all of a sudden it's game on.
Wow.
So that's what I'd say.